Welcome to SUSD Spotlight, your go-to source for all things happening within the district. Whether it's celebrating student and staff achievements, delving into trending education topics, or highlighting inspiring human interest stories, we've got you covered. Join us as we illuminate the incredible endeavors taking place in our schools and forge connections within our community. Get ready to be informed, inspired, and engaged as we embark on this journey together, spotlighting the extraordinary in SUSD. Welcome to another edition of SUSD Spotlight. Today we're excited to welcome in studio Desert Mountain High School junior Sid Gupta. Welcome, Sid.
I'm happy to be here.
So we're really interested to hear about the many things that you're engaged in. But first, tell us a little bit about your experience here in Scottsdale Unified School District. How long have you been a part of our school system?
Yeah, so I joined Scottsdale Unified School District in freshman year. I've been in Desert Mountain High School since freshman year. It's been really great. I've loved all the opportunities that SUSD has offered. The academics have been great. I'm in the AP program, so I'm loving that. And then obviously extracurricular stuff. There's a lot of great opportunities like the Student Advisory Board. Stuff like that. So,
and we appreciate your contributions on the Student Advisory Board. And I know you've taken some other initiatives in terms of advocacy here in Scottsdale. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your work with the Scottsdale City Council and how that project started. What was the genesis behind that idea and how you turned that into actual action by the council?
Yeah. As you guys are all probably familiar with, on campus, vaping is a pretty big issue among our youth. So when I came to Scottsdale Unified School District, I saw that was a problem among our student population. So I began brainstorming ways that we could tackle this effectively in a way that would actually bring change. So I got in contact with Scottsdale City Council members. Through Dr. Menzel, I was graciously introduced to council members such as City Councilman Marianne McAllen, Solange Whitehead, among others. And I began to talk to them about what the City Council, what could be done to curb vape usage. And what they told me is that in Scottsdale, previously, you couldn't smoke in public places and places of employment. But this law and this ordinance didn't apply to these new rampant vapes and other e-cigarette products. And that's where you'd get loopholes where a kid would be out vaping and the police wouldn't be able to do anything because technically what they were doing wasn't against the law in any way, even though it was harming them, it was harming the people around them through the secondhand smoke that those devices emit. So that sort of began my process on thinking, how do we make sure that our city law is up to date and is not outdated and that is actually addressing the problems that we face every day. So that led me to get in contact with a wide variety of organizations that are specialists on this, because obviously I'm no lawyer. I don't have any legal background on how to amend ordinances. So I got in contact with the American Cancer Society, the American Heart Association, and the American Lung Association, and they have special policy experts who do this for their job. And together with some of their lawyers, we drafted up some ordinance changes, some revisions to the Scottsdale smoke-free ordinance that would align it with the state laws. So the state also doesn't allow you to have e-cigarettes. So they're even a bit more ahead than Scottsdale was. But the state attorney general's office isn't going to be coming to Scottsdale and patrolling, right? That's the job of our city officials. So the state law wouldn't really apply to us as a city. So if we wanted our city police officers to be able to take action on this issue, it would have to be in a city code. So what we did is we drafted up some ordinance language, and the next important thing that we did is we had to get community support, because that's how you get laws passed. You have to see that the community actually supports what you're putting up for change. So we did community events at like the Scottsdale, the Boys and Girls Club at Barker Branch. We did some events at partnering with SUSD. SUSD had some events with Blue Zones and Not My Kid. and that got a lot of attention towards our work. We did a lot of events with the Scottsdale Mayor's Youth Council, who was familiar with advocacy. So all in all, we had a petition and it got upwards of 75 signatures. And once we hit that threshold, we went back around I think the May time period of this year, and we presented that petition to the Scottsdale City Council. I gave a quick little speech to them about my experience seeing vaping as an issue as a youth in the schools, and presented that petition, and they said, sure, we're going to look at it and we'll get back to you. Then it took them about till August till we heard back from them, because they go on break during the summers, kind of like we do. They get their vacation time. So we got a message back and they're like, yeah, we'd like to talk about some of the changes you made. So we went in. I brought some of the partner organizations that we worked with. I got to sit down and talk to them, and they were excited about the changes. They were happy that somebody had brought this to them, because they also saw that it's a pretty prevalent issue. So after that, after we sort of made some tweaks to make sure that there weren't any loopholes that the tobacco industry could exploit, it was sent to a voting city council meeting. So this was actually in September that they voted on it in the Scottsdale City Council, and it unanimously passed with a 7-0 vote to amend the Scottsdale smoke-free ordinance to include vapes. So that was a great experience.
Wow. Congratulations, number one. And then thank you as a member of the community for making our community that much safer and healthier. Certainly, it's a lot of work. And it sounds like you were actually quite successful pretty quickly, and yet a lot of work. So give me an idea of how long this timeline was from when you first set out on this venture to when that vote happened.
Yeah, so I'd say that it all started in my freshman year, I'd say. As I got involved in advocacy on the school level, so working with our principal at that time, it was Dr. Hirsch. She had her famous slogan of no capes, no vapes. So that was a big thing at Desert Mountain High School that we promoted. So that already started planting those seeds in my mind, that there was support from adults that they were wanting to see this change. Then in sophomore year is when some action, I got to actually engage with some organizations. I got put on the student advisory board, so I got to talk with Dr. Menzel and get those formal introductions. So that was last year, about a year ago, is when started to meet those city council members. And then it took basically a year for that entire process of drafting the language, getting it passed through all the city government, all their city officials, and then getting it fully passed.
Did you ever feel like, because you're still a young person, that there was ever a moment where someone didn't take you seriously, or it was hard to get somebody to open the door? Or do you think maybe your youth and your passion was a real asset in this?
I think it's sort of a double-edged sword. I think that sometimes they don't take you as seriously just because you are a kid. You inherently lack the experience. But I also think there's some admiration. They're like, wow, a kid, it's taken a kid to say that we need to change our Scottsdale City Code. That shows that this is a pretty big issue, and we are the group that is most affected by it. It's our generation that are primarily engaging in these activities. So it also shows that it's good to have a kid advocating for it, because the emotional appeal is there for a kid to be bringing it up. Whereas if an adult had brought it up, they would be like, you don't experience these issues, you're not seeing it firsthand, why do you really care? So that's why as a youth, I'd say it was actually helpful as a youth. And it was nice to have people, mentors, who would guide me through that process and sort of make it easy. So I never felt like my age was an issue in this process.
Were you always a believer, or were there some really tough days?
In the first hearing that we had, there were some doubts, because Some of the city council members were like, would that mess with some of our other laws? Would we have to like start putting up signs? Like we have no smoking signs. Would we have to then put up no vaping signs? What are the costs of that? So I got a bit scared during that time, but we figured it out. And they also want to see change. They present those questions, and then they give you some time to think about it, set up future meetings with them, address those problems. But yeah, there were some moments where I had some doubts.
So what advice do you have for other students who might have an idea about how to improve our community? You clearly have a lot of ambition and commitment. You have a vision for what you want to accomplish. You made the connections. You took advantage of those opportunities. What advice would you give to other students who might be shy or not certain that their ideas could get traction?
I think it first starts with taking leadership roles in your school. I think that's a very important way to get out of your shell. If you're a bit shy, it's important to first take those steps in your own school. And then I think a really important thing is checking our school newsletters, whether it's from your principal or from Dr. Menzel himself. There's a lot of good information there. Like some of the events that I mentioned earlier that we had done on community awareness, SUSD partners with a lot of organizations, and we do hold a lot of events, and those events are primarily publicized on the newsletters. So if you just go to those events just to spectate and watch, you can then go up to the hosts, the people who are talking there, and ask them questions afterwards, and they can put you in contact with more professionals. So the events that SUSD holds are great opportunities to do a lot of networking.
And I think that networking is really important, and you've seen the benefit of that. And if we can do more to create those opportunities for our students, we want to. It's why we have the Student Advisory Board and why we want to elevate student voice. We think the perspective you bring is significant. And I suspect, Sid, that this isn't the only thing you've been working on. What else have you been working on?
Outside of this, I also participate in my Desert Mountain High School robotics team. That's something that I'm really passionate about. I think that Desert Mountain has a great robotics program. We actually do that after school. So Miss Oken, who's a guidance counselor there, stays after school, works with us. Even sometimes, so we have like, I'd say, I think like a 40-minute allotted time. She usually stays like an hour past that. So I think hats off to her. I'll give her a little shout out. But the robotics program is something that I'm really passionate about. And I think Desert Mountain High School does a great job of that.
Award-winning.
Yeah, award-winning. Last year, we got first, second, and third place at the ASU Epics Robotics Competition. So that's been really fun. And then another thing that I'm really interested in is community service, specifically through Rotary. You guys might have seen, back to those newsletters, Rotary offers a lot of scholarships, and those go through our district administration. Rotary reaches out to us and says, to the district and says, are there any students who'd be interested in these scholarships? So Rotary is one of the leading international nonprofits. They do work through around the world, such as ending polio. They were a big proponent in the eradication of polio. Currently, one initiative that Interact is taking, Interact is the youth extension of Rotary. They're working on eradicating schistosomiasis, which is a deadly disease found primarily in 6 African countries. It affects youth, so it's a nice little thing where it's like kids helping kids. You're helping people who don't have the same opportunities as you. So I do a lot of fundraisers for that. So that's been something that I like to spend my time on.
That's exciting. As a Rotarian, I'm glad you're involved in the Interact Club. The Rotary motto is service above self. And that kind of commitment and that giving back to community is what makes this such a special place.
It's junior year, so you've also got to be planning ahead. So as much as you've got going on, you also have a lot of academics that you're working through and maybe some big ideas for the future.
Yeah. Junior year is pretty difficult, I will say. To all the other juniors out there, this is probably going to be the hardest year. A lot of rigorous classes. I mentioned that I'm in the AP program, so taking quite a few AP classes this year. Obviously, we have the PSAT coming up for juniors. A lot of kids are taking the SAT. right now we'll have the ACT in spring, so a lot of studying to be done.
Do you know what you might want to do next? And has all of this service sort of pointed you in one direction or another?
See, I've gone through some different forks in the road when it comes to essentially what I want to major in college. I think currently I'm thinking about doing a double major in public policy and computer science.
Wow.
I think the public policy things are probably evident through the advocacy work that I've been able to do on the city council, but I'm extremely interested in computer science as well. So that's another one of my big passions, specifically cybersecurity. I think in an increasingly technology-centered world, cybersecurity becomes very important. All of our bank information, our social information, all of our biometrics, they're all online at this point. And it's very important that we're able to protect our data effectively. So,
Well, you've got time to figure it out, and yet your interests are such that there's no doubt that you will be successful in whatever it is you decide to take on.
Absolutely. Full confidence that you will be a distinguished alum of Desert Mountain High School, and we'll be looking at your future success with pride. One of the things I like to ask all of our guests at the end of every podcast is if there's a teacher that has made a significant difference in your life. It can be anyone from any point in time in your past, but we like to give a shout out to teachers. We know the work they do is incredibly important. And is there someone who might have inspired you or kind of seen that spark in you that got you excited about the work that you're doing now?
Yeah. I've already shouted out Miss Oken, but I'll do two teachers. I think Miss Oken has done a great job in that robotics program. She spends a lot of time on it. She goes to all the events that are associated with it. So since we're dealing with all this machinery, whenever we buy new ones, she has to go to the information sessions to make sure that she is able to make sure that we are safe and we're using the machinery in a way that we don't hurt ourselves. She has to go to all those ASU events to get that done. So I want to give a shout out to her. I'm also wanting to give a shout out to Miss Murray. She's the AP Calc BC teacher at Desert Mountain. She also teaches Algebra 2. I really like her teaching style. I think she's done a great job. She's in a lot of programs to improve her teaching style. She likes to make sure that students are actually understanding the content. And that AP Calc BC class is also simultaneously taught with the IB Math HL. So I think how she's able to balance those two different programs and teach it together is really commendable.
Well, thank you so much for that. It's so great to be able to lift up the great work that the adults are doing in support of your learning. It's wonderful to hear about the initiative that you took and the successes that you've had. I'm glad that we have another year with you on the Student Advisory Board, not only this year, but hopefully your senior year as well. We want to thank you for tuning in to this issue of SUSD Spotlight, where we elevate the excellent things happening in Scottsdale Unified School District.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and that you will join us online and pitch us ideas for future episodes. You can find us at susd.org/spotlight.